What happens when two powerhouse voices collide in the most uncomfortable television moment of the year? The world was about to witness the exact moment. Everything went wrong between Teddy Swims and Kelly Clarkson, leading to one of the most shocking walk-offs in daytime television history. The studio lights blazed as Kelly settled into her signature chair, her million-dollar smile in place, as she prepared to welcome her next guest. Across from her, Teddy adjusted on the plush couch, his tattooed hands fidgeting with the microphone clipped to his shirt. The audience buzzed with excitement, unaware they were about to witness history unfold. "Your rise to fame has been absolutely incredible," Kelly began warmly. "From posting covers in your bedroom to selling out arenas, it's like a fairy tale come true." Teddy's jaw tightened, though his smile held. "I appreciate that," he replied. "But I wouldn't exactly call it a fairy tale. There's been a lot of hard work, rejection, and people who didn't believe in me." Kelly nodded quickly. "But that's what makes it inspiring. You went from unknown to millions of views almost overnight. It must feel amazing to finally get the recognition you deserve." The word finally seemed to hang in the air. Teddy's smile faltered before he caught himself. "I've been doing this for over a decade, Kelly. It wasn't overnight, and it wasn't about recognition. It was about staying true to my art, whether people were paying attention or not." Kelly laughed lightly, though it rang a little forced. "Right, of course. But you have to admit, social media really changed everything for you. Without TikTok and Instagram, would we even know who Teddy Swims is?" The question landed like a slap. Teddy straightened, his media-trained composure cracking. "Are you suggesting my success is just because of algorithms?" Kelly backtracked quickly. "Not at all. I'm just saying social media gave you a platform that traditional routes didn't. Let's be honest, the industry can be tough for artists who don't fit the typical mold." Teddy's voice dropped low and sharp. "What mold would that be exactly?" Kelly seemed oblivious. "You know, the tattooed, bearded, soulful guy thing. It feels authentic even if it's carefully crafted for social media." The studio grew silent. Even the cameras seemed to tense. "Carefully crafted?" Teddy repeated softly, his words weighted. "These tattoos aren't a marketing strategy. This beard isn't a brand choice. This is who I've always been, long before anyone cared about authenticity." Kelly's smile strained as she glanced off camera. "Of course, I didn't mean otherwise. I think viewers just want to know how you stay authentic while managing sudden fame." "Sudden fame," Teddy repeated, shaking his head. "You talk like I appeared out of thin air with a guitar and a dream. Do you know how many dive bars I played for 5 people? How many times I was told I was too soulful for country, too R&B for rock?" Kelly tried to move on, her voice smoothing over the tension. "Speaking of your voice, let's talk about your new album. The production is so polished compared to your early recordings. It must be nice working with a real team of professionals." That was the breaking point. Teddy's eyes flashed cold. "A real team of professionals? As opposed to what? The fake amateurs I worked with before?" Kelly's words stumbled. "I just meant that access to proper studios and producers elevated your sound. There's nothing wrong with getting help to reach your full potential." "Help to reach my full potential?" Teddy repeated, his voice taut with frustration. "Tell me something, Kelly. When you won American Idol, did people say Simon Cowell and the show helped you reach your potential? Or did they recognize your talent was already there?" The comparison caught her off guard, and for the first time she looked rattled. "That's different. Idol is designed to showcase talent." Teddy leaned forward, his voice rising. "And what do you think I was doing in dive bars and bedroom recordings? Playing hide and seek? I was showcasing my talent long before any algorithm or professional team you want to credit." The audience shifted uncomfortably, the tension palpable. Kelly tried to steer the conversation back to safer ground, but by then, the interview had already spiraled beyond repair. "Teddy, I think there might be a misunderstanding here," Kelly said carefully, her voice wavering just slightly. "I have nothing but respect for your journey and your talent. Maybe we got off on the wrong foot." But Teddy wasn't in the mood for diplomacy. "No, Kelly, we got off on exactly the foot you intended. You brought me here thinking you could package my story into some feel-good segment about social media success and professional polish without even bothering to understand what that story really is." The tension in the studio was suffocating. Camera operators exchanged confused signals with the directors. The audience glanced at one another with wide eyes, and for perhaps the first time in her hosting career, Kelly Clarkson appeared completely out of her depth. Trying to recover, she pressed on. I think what our audience would really benefit from is hearing about your creative process, how you choose which songs to record. Teddy let out a laugh, sharp and humorless. My creative process? My creative process is taking every rejection, every dismissal, every time someone decided I didn't fit their idea of what a musician should look like, and turning that pain into something beautiful. My creative process is being authentic in a world constantly trying to sell you a version of authenticity. Kelly's cheeks flushed as she tried to steady her tone. Teddy, I understand you're passionate about your music, but I think you're misinterpreting my questions. Am I? Teddy leaned forward, eyes locked on hers. Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you think my success is a mix of lucky timing, social media manipulation, and professional intervention. It sounds like you can't quite believe that someone who looks like me with my background could have something real to offer. The silence in the studio was absolute, broken only by the hum of equipment and an occasional nervous cough. This was no longer an interview. It was a confrontation. Kelly's face hardened, her polished mask slipping. Teddy, I think you're being unfair. I've interviewed hundreds of artists, and I've always been supportive of different paths to success. Teddy's disbelief was clear in his voice. Supportive? In the last 10 minutes, you've implied my success is accidental, my authenticity manufactured, my early work amateur, and my talent only worthwhile because professionals fixed me. If that's your version of supportive, I'd hate to see hostile. The audience sat frozen, some even pulling out their phones, sensing this was a moment that would be replayed for years. Producers gestured frantically from behind the cameras, but Kelly and Teddy were locked in. Kelly's voice sharpened. I'm trying to have a conversation about your career trajectory. If you're going to treat every question like a personal attack, maybe you're not ready for this level of media attention. The words detonated like a bomb. Gasps echoed through the audience, and even the camera operators flinched. Teddy's eyes widened, his voice dropping dangerously quiet. Not ready for media attention? You think I'm not ready because I won't sit here and let you diminish everything I've worked for? Kelly realized she'd crossed a line but pressed forward. Artists who want to succeed at this level need to handle tough questions and different perspectives without getting defensive. Tough questions? Teddy stood, his broad frame looming over the set. Asking about my music, my influences, my writing process, those would be tough questions. What you've been doing is trying to rewrite my story into whatever narrative makes you comfortable. Kelly remained seated but rigid. I'm trying to help our viewers understand your journey. Sometimes that means asking questions you don't want to hear. Help our viewers understand? Teddy's laugh was bitter. Or help yourself understand how someone like me succeeded without the system that validated you. The accusation hung heavy in the air. Kelly's expression flickered from shock to anger, to something close to panic. That's completely out of line, Teddy. He began pacing, hands moving with each emphatic word. Out of line? From where I stand, you can't wrap your head around artists who didn't need a TV competition, didn't need industry gatekeepers, didn't need permission from people like you to make music that matters. Kelly's voice rose to meet his. People like me? What's that supposed to mean? It means people who believe success has to look a certain way, come through certain channels, be approved by certain institutions. Teddy shot back. People who are so invested in their own version of how the industry works that they can't see talent when it doesn't fit their mold. The room crackled with energy. Some audience members leaned forward as if unable to look away from a car crash, while others shifted uneasily, glancing toward the exits. Even the band, normally relaxed, sat upright in tense silence. Kelly's composure was unraveling. You know what, Teddy? I've been doing this show for years. I've made artists feel welcome. I've celebrated their success. I've given them a platform to share their stories. If you can't appreciate that, maybe the problem isn't with my questions. Teddy stopped pacing, turned and faced her directly. Make artists feel welcome? He repeated, his voice low and cutting. Teddy's frustration finally erupted, his voice cutting through the tense silence of the studio. He accused Kelly of spending the entire interview trying to delegitimize his success, questioning his authenticity, and implying that his talent wasn't real without professional polish. Kelly shot to her feet, insisting that he was putting words in her mouth. But Teddy pushed back, pointing out that every question had been framed to undermine him. He challenged her directly, asking if she ever questioned artists like Taylor Swift or John Legend in the same way. Kelly faltered, claiming the comparison wasn't fair, but Teddy pressed harder, suggesting that it was only unfair because their paths to success fit her idea of legitimacy, while his did not. The producers signaled frantically off stage, but neither host paid attention. The audience sat in stunned silence as the glossy facade of daytime television crumbled before their eyes. Kelly accused Teddy of being unprofessional, reminding him the interview was supposed to be a celebration of his achievements, but Teddy growled that professionalism didn't excuse her repeated attempts to tear him down. His examples, questions about whether he was just a social media creation or if his music required industry polish to be valid, landed with force, leaving Kelly flushed and visibly shaken. She accused him of twisting her words, but Teddy gestured toward the audience, many of whom nodded in agreement. Kelly looked around for support, but even her own team avoided eye contact. Tight with control, she reminded him that it was her show, but her ultimatum only deepened the divide. With eerie calm, Teddy said maybe he should reconsider being there at all. Kelly, panicked now, begged him not to be dramatic, insisting they could work through it. But Teddy unhooked his microphone, saying there was nothing to work through when she refused to respect his journey. She protested weakly, claiming she believed in his talent, but Teddy dismissed it, accusing her of booking him only because he was trending. When Kelly said she wanted to share his story, Teddy's laugh was hollow. He reminded her that she hadn't asked about the music that saved his life, the fans who supported him from the start, or the struggles that shaped his songs, only questions meant to diminish what he had built. The audience was transfixed, some recording on their phones, others frozen in shock. Even the band looked as if they were watching a disaster unfold. Kelly's composure shattered as she accused Teddy of hostility, insisting she had always supported artists from all backgrounds. But Teddy cut her off sharply, pointing out that she clearly didn't consider his background legitimate. Every question, he said, had been designed to explain away his success rather than celebrate it. Kelly denied it, but her words rang hollow. Finally freeing the microphone, Teddy delivered the final blow. By suggesting social media was the only reason he was known, Kelly had implied his music wasn't good enough on its own. By framing his early work as unpolished, she had suggested he wasn't talented without help. By questioning his readiness for fame, she had told him he didn't belong at this level. Kelly looked around desperately for someone to intervene, but her team sat frozen, the studio thick with the weight of an irreversible moment. Teddy's composure cracked as he accused Kelly of disguising loaded attacks as casual questions. His voice, sharp with disbelief, echoed through the silent studio as he declared the entire interview an interrogation rather than a conversation. Kelly's expression flickered through emotions before she struck back, suggesting his reaction was exactly why people in the industry had concerns about him, implying that his attitude was the reason he had built a career outside traditional channels. The audience gasped, and even the crew seemed shaken. Teddy went still, his voice dropping to a chilling quiet as he told her she had finally revealed her true self. Not a supportive champion of artists, but someone who dismissed anything that didn't fit her narrative. Realizing she had crossed a line, Kelly tried to backtrack, insisting she hadn't meant it that way, but Teddy refused to let her retreat. He told her she had validated every gatekeeper who had ever said he wasn't good enough, every executive who told him he didn't fit, every critic who questioned his worth. Kelly shrank into her chair, her voice barely a whisper, but Teddy pressed on, accusing her of seeing the problem in his attitude rather than in her inability to respect what he represented. He held up his microphone as if it were something contaminated, confessing that he had once respected her, believing she understood the struggle because of her own unconventional start, but now he saw her as just another insider with a limited perspective. Kelly's voice broke as she pleaded for a chance to make things right, but Teddy told her she couldn't undo 30 minutes of dismissal. Setting the microphone gently on the side table, he said he had come expecting to be understood, only to be ambushed by someone who thought his success was a fluke and his authenticity a marketing strategy. Kelly swore that wasn't what she thought, but Teddy told her the real tragedy was that she probably thought the same way about many other artists who didn't fit her definition of legitimacy. When she insisted nothing like this had ever happened before, Teddy suggested maybe others had simply been too polite to call her out. Standing, he addressed the stunned audience, apologizing that they had to witness the clash, but reminding them that sometimes standing up for yourself mattered more than being polite. Kelly made one last desperate attempt, warning him he was throwing away a huge opportunity, that her show reached millions. Teddy turned back one final time and said he would rather reach no one than gain exposure through someone who didn't respect what he had built. His music, he declared, spoke for itself. With that, he walked off stage, leaving Kelly frozen in her chair, her face torn between shock, embarrassment, and regret. The studio sat in stunned silence, the audience unsure whether to applaud or remain quiet, while producers scrambled to salvage the moment. For the first time in her career, Kelly Clarkson was left speechless. Teddy's walk-off wasn't just an exit, it was a statement, one that would be replayed, dissected, and debated for years to come. What began as a routine interview had transformed into a defining moment, one that would forever change how both Teddy and Kelly were seen in the industry.